දසනකාන්තී චූර්ණය සහිත ලීවර් ආයිෂ් දන්තාලේපය දත්වල ඇති ප්‍රශ්න 10ක් වලකයි.
A conference organized by Advocata Institute on the theme Let's Reset Sri Lanka inaugurated this morning under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Delivering the keynote address, President Wickremesinghe explained Sri Lanka's path to economic recovery.
The task first is for Sri Lanka to stabilize its economy. How do we do that? Well, the way out is through the agreements that we have with the IMF. I don't think there's any other way out. People talk of alternative measures, but that has not worked. During the Asian crisis of 1997, it was IMF that came forward to look at the reforms. During the 2009 crisis, 8-9 crisis, it was again the IMF. Whether we like it or not, we have to deal with the IMF. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing is for each of you to decide. Then first and foremost, we have to enter into the staff level agreement with IMF. Now this is an issue which the whole parliament has to consider. If any member of parliament or any party says we are not for it, then we have the right to ask, what is your solution? What is your alternative? Because all parties must abide by this agreement. When we are negotiating the IMF, one of the biggest issues that we have to face is government changes and the policies change. So the first issue is not the substance, but are we prepared to stand by to support this agreement? If we are not prepared, then the parliament must take the consequence. That is very clear. We can't say we are for half and not for the other half. You have to take the whole thing in full. Any medicine for recovery is bitter. You have to take injections. So we know the path we have to take. First, we have the staff level agreement. Secondly, and more important, is the sustainable debt. How are we to handle the sustainable debt? First, the foreign debt. And when you look at the official debt, are we getting caught into the geopolitics of the region of Asia? That's the first issue. So until you come to an agreement among the official creditors, it is not possible to go to the London Club. It's certainly going to be a difficult time. I won't say no. The first 6 months will be difficult. But we all have to go through it. So how do we prepare ourselves? And in doing so, before we get on to the recovery, is the very important issue of the social, economic dimensions of the crisis. We have already seen the economic impact of the shortage of fuel and inflation in this country. Impact which came on to the political scene and the social scene. It's only now that we are restoring or we are getting back to a stable system of government. We cannot have a second incident. I don't know whether we can stand that strain. We have to take a path that will give us a quick recovery. We can't go back to the old economy. We can't go back to that model. So we've been thinking in terms of a highly competitive, export-oriented economy. How do we get there? First and foremost, the time that we are stabilizing also is the time for reform, to change the laws, to change the systems, to change the institutions. The 6 months to 1 year, I think till about July next year, we will have to go through a hard time. That's also the time for planning and the time for opening up. Let us look at new sectors. One I believe very much is logistics. If you see the growth of the Indian, Bangladeshi and the Pakistan economies, logistics can have a big role to play here in Colombo, in Hambantota and in Trincomalee. This is how we use our strategic position. Second is renewable energy. Look at the renewable energy we have in this country. Look at the green hydrogen, green ammonia, the sale of power to India. I think we have to seriously consider, I don't know whether the two members of parliament in front of me will agree, we have to seriously consider getting a report on the use of nuclear energy in Sri Lanka. More energy you have, more energy you can sell to India. At the same time, keep more renewable energy available here. We have to think out of the box. Some are going to criticize me for the idea I put forward on whether we have to survive as a nation. We have to become a middle income economy and then to a high income economy. We must modernize agriculture. Otherwise, agriculture will not survive in our country. Modernize our fisheries. Look at niche markets. Look at the new technology in manufacturing, the fourth industrial revolution. And of course, it must be an economy that will mitigate climate change. That is essential. We need a social market economy today. Just as much as we must make money and make bigger profits, there must be more money available to people. The housing needs must be met in the next 15-20 years. We have to meet that. Poverty should no longer be existent in the rural areas of Sri Lanka, or for that matter, the urban areas. We are a small country. We can go ahead. Remember, we are talking of a highly competitive economy. A highly competitive economy does not run on low wages. A highly competitive economy runs on high wages and a high productivity. Both those are necessary. Without those, we can't go ahead. Then we come to another issue of trade integration in the region. Unfortunately, I don't think you will see trade integration in the South Asian region. No. There will have to be bilateral agreements with whoever we want. There's too much of politics involved for there to be a regional trade agreement in South Asia. So we can keep that aside. We have to look at the ASEAN and the RCEP. That's a growing market. It's a big market and the income levels are much higher. So let's look at it. Later on, you can look at Africa, East Africa especially. We must keep our economic relationships with Europe. And we have a UK that is looking for a role as a global Britain. So I think Sri Lanka can easily get closer and have a better relationship with UK. And then we get on to the US itself. US economy is also undergoing changes and I think that will benefit us. But we have to remember one thing. Remember, the global situation next year is not going to be favorable to anyone. Let's hope 2024 will be better. But we have to get through all this. So all I can say to you is, are you ready to take up the challenge? Are you ready to influence other people to take up the challenge? Or are you going to sit back?